Welcome back to Man vs. Meeple, the show where we talk about everything board game related. I am your host, Jeremy Salinas, and today we're going to take a look at a brand new game that is coming out very soon by Good Games Publishing, and I'm talking about the game called Unfair. To help me talk about it, I'm here with David Waybright.
Hello everyone, welcome back. This is going to be a pretty interesting thing. Everyone likes building amusement parks, but like the title says, it's not always fair.
This game is definitely not fair. This is a very interesting game. So there's been companies out there that have tried the whole theme park motif, and a lot of them have fallen flat on their face.
Yeah, most of them, I feel.
I can't really think of any that I jumped out and said, oh, I got to keep this game. I don't have anything in my collection that is theme park based right now. Most of them I played a couple times and have been like, it's okay.
Yeah, I definitely don't. I always enjoyed playing old computer games like Roller Coaster Tycoon, and I'd love the idea of something on the tabletop.
Yeah.
And this is really the first one that feels pretty good.
Yeah, so we had a chance to play this at Gen Con on Wednesday, I think or Tuesday even, maybe. I don't remember.
It's all a blur, but it was pretty early. Wednesday night maybe, or Tuesday night.
So we met up with the publisher, and coincidentally, they're opening a brand new store here in Indianapolis, which is fascinating and exciting.
Yeah, it was just blocks away from the convention center, so we walked over with them, and we're lucky enough for them to demo the entire game for us.
And it is a good game.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about what you're doing in the game. You're building a theme park.
Yeah.
So the game scales between 2 to 4 players. It takes about a half hour, 20 minutes to a half hour per player. The base game comes with 4 different themes, and the themes are represented by these cards that you see here in front of me. There's a jungle theme, a pirate theme, a robot theme, and a vampire theme, all which have their own number of events, theme park items, city cards, blueprints to them. And what you do is, depending on the number of players, if you're playing with 2 players, you're going to pick 2 of these types of decks and intermingle them all together. If you're playing a 3, you're going to add a third and a fourth. So there is a little bit of setup and breakdown depending upon the number of players that are participating in the game. But it also lends itself really well to future expansions. I mean, I can think of all kinds of different things that they could add to it. So in the game, what you're doing is you're building a theme park. You have a main gate, which is located right here. The main gate is basically your gateway into the park, and it has a couple different items on it. It tells you the capacity of guests that you can have in your park and how much it pays out at the end of every round for the number of guests you have in there.
Right, plus the number of attractions. I mean, this is pretty much basic standard rules, but total number of attractions is 5, and you can have super attractions, but only 1 of those.
Yeah, we'll get to those. On the left-hand side is where you're going to put all of your resources or staff members that staff your park, and on the right-hand side is where you're going to place theme attractions that you're basically getting. And theme attractions range from thrill rides to
restaurants.
I mean, it's
more family-oriented things, haunted houses, theaters, all sorts of different ones.
Sideshows, nature areas, leisure rides, super attractions. So basically what you're doing is you are acquiring these different theme parks over the course of the game and placing them to the right of your main attraction, and you build onto these areas. So for instance, you could have a leisure ride in your theme park, and it could have quality seats on it.
Exactly.
It could have premium seats. It could have upgrades to it.
We have here, it's a leisure ride. It's the Tiger Experience, so it's kind of like a little animal park. And I've added restrooms to it. Who doesn't want restrooms nearby any of their attractions?
Right.
And the upgrades throughout the game are going to do a variety of things, but first and foremost is they add to the stars that you have in your park, which is where you're going to score all your points, get all your money.
At the end of the round.
Right.
So let's walk you guys through a basic turn of theme park so you understand the structure in it. At the beginning of every round, you're going to draw an event.
Jeremy's favorite part.
I do. I love this aspect of games. I loved it in the networks where you're drawing cards and you can affect the entire gameplay situation for everyone there.
And this is fun, too, because it kind of gets that right out at the beginning of every round. Everyone draws up their events, and then you can use them right then.
And just so you guys know, this is very much a take that style of game.
Absolutely. It's right there in the name. But Unfair.
The idea is that it affects other players and everybody at the same time. We'll get into that in a moment. So the very first thing is everybody at the table is going to draw one event. Each event in the game has two different functions to them, a top function and a bottom function. It's your choice on whether or not you want to play the top or the bottom.
Right.
It just gives you more options on what to do.
And the top's usually beneficial to you, and the bottom's usually a little bit more take that, generally speaking.
Exactly. The next thing that's going to happen is a city event. Walk them through what happens in a city event, because this is a great portion.
Yeah, so the city event is basically going to give you the special rules for this round.
Right.
So you'll just flip over the city event. And the cool thing about this is the first half of the game, all the city events are funfair city events.
They're beneficial to everybody in the game.
Right. And then in the second half of the game, they go to unfair city events, which are nasty and you have to deal with it.
Yeah,
basically issues that you have to deal with as a organizer. And
right. Technically some very, very bad things. There's also a portion, once you get to a specific area in the game, the ability to buy blueprints, and we'll get to blueprints in a second as well, stops. So once you get into the unfair portion of the city events, you can't build anymore.
Right.
Bad things are happening. Plagues can happen in your theme park. The animals can get loose and start killing people. There's a whole variety of these different cards in the game, and you're randomly putting 4 in of each at the start of the game.
Yeah, it thematically, when it takes the blueprints out of the equation, it's kind of transitioning you from the early days of building your park and having all these glorious plans to trying to hold it all together.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not thinking about how you're going to build up and all these fancy plans. You're just trying to hold things together.
So once you're done with the city event, the next thing that's going to happen is each player in turn order can play one event card around the table, and when it gets back to them, they can play another one. So you're taking turns to do beneficial things for yourself or to hurt other players in the game, and that's completely dependent upon the event cards that you have in your hand. And there's a whole variety. We'll throw some up on the screen so you can read through some of them.
Yeah.
But they're quite hilarious on some of the things that you can do.
And it's fun. It's take that, but again, like a lot of the games we've played this Gen Con, a lot of the take that is fun enough to where it's not really annoying.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah, very reminiscent of the Bloodborne aspect where you're hurting other players, but you're also having enjoyment while you're doing it. And they are too.
Right.
That portion of the game is very much in the theme of this game.
And that goes around the table too until everyone passes in a row. So you can keep going, you can pass, and then if someone plays an event card, you can get back in on the action and play an event card.
Some of these event cards, just to give you an idea of the take that portion of it, it can actually shut down other players' theme parks. And the importance of shutting down is that you flip the attraction over, meaning that you don't score any guests at the end of the round for that. At the end of the round, it flips back over so you can. So it's basically a way of shutting people's ability to collect money from their guests from round to round. The money fuels the ability to buy cards in the future.
Yeah.
Which gets us into the Park 1, 2, and 3 phase. During this step, each player in turn order will take one action, and then we'll go to the next player, and next player, and the next player.
Until everyone's taken all 3.
Yeah, until everyone's taken all 3 of their actions, so to speak. Now, the actions that you can take in the game are drawing a card, which is basically a couple different things. You can draw a card from one of these face-up cards here.
Yeah, you simply take that into your hand.
Yeah.
And then the other ones, and this is where the drawing gets a little bit more interesting. Mm-hmm. You can take 2 cards from either the park,
which are these cards that you see down here.
Yeah,
the same thing.
The park is what feeds this tableau.
Right.
Or 2 cards from blueprints.
Yes.
Or 2 cards from the events. Take them both, choose one, and replace one.
Right.
And then the last part of drawing is you can discard a card that might be in your hand, and this is only for the park deck. You can take 5 of those cards, so it gives you a really good variety to choose from if you're looking for something specific.
Right. Right. And the reason why you would be looking for specific type things is some of the goals, some of the blueprints that you get, and again, we'll get into blueprints in just a moment, require you to have a specific number of upgrades on them. So you could be digging for those thrill ride upgrades that you need in order to get a specific number of points.
Yeah, there's a lot of cards in the game. The blueprints give you those goals. There's some other cards, too, on the events and whatnot that allow you to score maybe more money at the end of the round or maybe more points at the end of the game if you have a specific type of ride, or maybe if you have a wide variety of rides or a bunch of thrill rides, things like that.
So let me talk a little bit about the blueprints real quick. looking at the camera here, there's 3 different varieties of them. There's easy, medium, and difficult. And what you're trying to do is build something in your park that matches the blueprint.
Yeah, and it's often very specific.
Yeah.
You know?
So a food outlet with a restroom, and that's an easy one. If you do that and you have that at the end of the game, you're going to score points that are associated with the blueprint itself. And you can have as many blueprints as you wish to have. There's no negative benefit of having them in your hand at the end and not fulfilling them. However, remember, you only have 4 rounds to get blueprints, because once it gets to the unfair portion of the city, you no longer can acquire blueprints anymore.
Well, and of course, when you choose to take a blueprint, you're burning an action on that. So you're limiting what you're getting. So if you look at the tableau of amusements or attractions rather, or upgrades, and you don't see anything you want, that might be a good time to grab a blueprint, might be a good time to grab an event.
Right.
Like we said earlier, Jeremy's a big fan of grabbing events. Things have to be pretty nice out there on the tableau for Jeremy not to consider taking an event.
That's true.
The other cool thing about the blueprints, too, is some of them have this bottom half, which is kind of a bonus target. So you have to fulfill the top part.
Yes.
And then you can also fulfill the bottom part to get even more points, which is kind of press your luck, but it felt that way a little bit.
But it's one more thing that more heavy gamers are going to appreciate, right? Something they can do on top of something else.
Right.
Grabbing a card is one option you have.
Yeah.
Building a card is another. So you can build a card into your theme park if you have it currently in your hand, or if you take a card on your action, you can immediately build that.
Right.
And again, these cards, if it's a staff or a resource, is going to go on the left-hand side of your main gate. And if it's an attraction, it's going to go on the right side, either as a new attraction or as an attachment to another attraction that you may currently have. And you can have up to 5 total attractions, and they can have as many upgrades as you so wish. And that really comes into the point scoring system at the end, and we'll get into that in a moment as well. So the other 2 actions you can take are demolishing something in your park. It's not something that happens often. That we experienced.
I mean, it would really come into play, like, again, if you were trying to balance your park out to achieve some of those specific goals.
Right.
You know, you might pick up a blueprint that goes, okay, now I need to change my plan so I can hit this blueprint for the points. So that's where it comes in, although we didn't see it too much in our first play.
No. And the last thing you can do is pick up loose change from your guests.
Yeah, we didn't see this come into play at all. This is kind of an in a pinch sort of action, I believe.
So you're using an action to gain 1 coin for each of the possibly 5 attractions that you have.
Right, so it's going to be,
it's a money grab.
1 to 3 coins, or 1 to 5 coins, which isn't much.
Right. So yeah, that's basically what you're going to have happen every turn. There's a possibility for a 4th park action.
Yeah.
For a player. That is only powered by an event card that allows that player to have a 4th park action, but it's a valuable event should it come up. It allows you to grab more cards or do more actions or build something.
We saw that a couple times.
Yeah.
And one thing that needs to be said too, when you're building, that's where all the coins come in that you've collected. So when you build a card, there's a cost on each of these cards that you have to pay.
Yes. Sorry about that.
And those are not insignificant. Some of them are quite pricey.
Yes.
In doing the building, some of the great combos that you can get going, you might have a card that you've played that allows you to play your next upgrade for free. Mm-hmm. And if you have a really expensive upgrade in your hand, you can get that out there and not pay anything.
Right.
A lot of this game is about money management.
Yeah.
The money is, the park fuels the money, and the money fuels the park in the next round. Yeah. So if you don't have the money, you can't build a lot of things.
So the money is generated in the 4th step, or in the guest step. You're going to collect money depending upon how many guests are at your park in attractions that are not closed down from previous events. So just looking at David's tableau that he has over here, he's got $1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, $9 that he's going to generate for the next round.
And there may be some extra cards too. A staff member might give you a little bit more money at the end of the round if you have a certain type of attraction in your park. The other thing too, for instance, we'll take that same example. So let's say Jeremy had shut down my floorless roller coaster,
which I probably would have.
I'm sure he would have. And it has two guests on it itself, and it had 2 upgrades with 2 guests.
You wouldn't be collecting money for any of that.
There's $4 less.
Yeah.
So that's basically the back and forth of the game in terms of building your park, playing events to affect other people's parks, collecting your money. rinse and repeat to the next round.
Yeah, and then at the end, there's a cleanup step. All of the remaining theme park attractions are removed. They're recycled. The event cards will go away. You'll discard down to 5 cards.
Yeah, some of the event cards actually stay out. Some of them are immediate. Some of them are, they say, pinned to your tableau until the end of the round. So those would get wiped as well. And you just start a new round from the very beginning of the event phase.
With all of your closed attractions recycling, and then you pass the turn marker over to the next player.
Yeah, and the game is 8 rounds of that.
Yeah.
So over that period of time, you'll easily be able to build up a 5 attraction park, and maybe even, like we said earlier, kind of adjust that, tweak it, change attractions in and out.
Yeah. So there's some other little modifiers in the game. There are loan cards that everyone starts with. These loan cards allow you to take 4 loans out in the game, which allow you to use money. You gain $5 for each loan. You simply turn the card. When you turn the card, you get negative points. There's no way in this game to pay back the loan. So when you take a loan, you're losing quite a bit of points, from negative 10 all the way up to negative 40 points.
But I could see a play where you use the loans to get a bunch of money to really seize the opportunities that present themselves.
Yeah.
Because the point scoring at the end, and we'll get that in a second, can be massive.
Yeah. There are some of these game changer cards. There's 3 of them that you can use at the beginning of the game. These just simply modify the start conditions. One of them is called World Peace, which does not allow you to use negative cards on other players. So if you like less of that, take that aspect.
We'll never be playing with that.
Yeah, we'll never be playing with that card just because it's not the type of game I like. But there's ones that reduces the rounds to 6 instead of 8. And the last one lets you start with the showcase card. And we haven't talked about the showcase cards, but there are some super attractions in here which are quite cool. They're very expensive to buy, but they give you abilities to use throughout the game. I think there's 8 of them that start in there. One of these game changer cards allows you to start with one of those, but if you do play with these in the normal game, you're going to draw 2 of them, and then you have the option to build them through the course of the game, but you can only have 1 built at any given time. And again, those give you abilities that will last for the entire game.
Right, and the abilities, this is where a lot of the cool variability comes into this game.
Right.
And I think you can only build these after your park's a certain size. You have to have 5 guests or something like that.
You have to have 5 guests in order to build a super
And these
attraction.
add a lot of flavor, too. I mean, these are very unique, and we haven't said this, but the artwork, if you haven't been able to see with the images that we put up, is fantastic.
It's some of the best artwork we saw at Gen Con.
And there's so much of it.
Yeah.
Like, oftentimes when you see a game that has a stack of cards this high, you figure, okay, there's going to be a lot of repeat cards. And there are some repeat cards, but there are a lot of different cards in this. And all of these attractions are different.
There's even cards that have, like this one right here, this Tiger Experience. It's got these little symbols on the bottom. There's 4 little cubes. And it has no gameplay bearing in this game, but it creates a panoramic image of it. And what the designer or what the publisher told us is that in future expansions, they're going to build on that so that if you build a panorama, you get extra points.
And that'll be awesome. There's a few games I've played like that where you lay the cards next to each other and they really paint a scene.
Yeah.
That's a huge opportunity for the expansion.
So let's talk about the end of the game scoring. And I'm going to throw something up on the screen in post-editing for you guys, but you can score a ton of points in this game. Points is all about the number of icons that you have on your attraction. Now, every single attraction in the game has an icon on it. And if you flip over this little thing here, it tells you what these different upgrades and whatnot do. So for instance, this is a leisure ride. Right. So you're going to add up all of the icons per attraction, and it's going to give you a number of points, ranging from 5 points for one icon on an attraction up to 310 points for something with 25 different icons on it. This is the risk and reward portion of the game. If you start building a super attraction with a lot of icons on it, it's going to be a target for someone to shut that thing down over and over again.
So you might score some points in the end.
You're going to score a lot of points, but you're not going to have the money to generate from round to round in order to buy new things. So
you might have one park built around this one awesome ride,
which
is kind of cool because it really makes it that much more thematic. I can have a varied park with lots of different rides, but Jeremy could have that one park that has the best roller coaster on the planet.
Right.
And that... And we could score similarly. Mm-hmm. You could get all of your points from the one attraction. I could get a lot of points spread out.
Yeah,
which is really cool. I mean, that's I like those those different paths to the end game scoring and to victory. So we had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, this game may be unfair, and it is very unfair, but unfun it is not. This is an extremely fun game. I looked online for this designer. I think his name is Paul Denon. No, I'm sorry, it's Joel Finch. My bad. It's Joel Finch. This is his first game he's ever made, and I got to say, man, it's a fabulous game.
It is. They put a lot of love into this, too.
Absolutely.
They've taken a lot of time. We talked to them about this, and the little things in this game make it really cool. They've added little things here and there on the cards that just give you a little thematic touch. We have the board actually splayed out so that you can see all the cards face up, but they've actually made it so that when people are sitting across from one another, some of the cards will face people on one side of the table, some of the cards will face people on the other side of the table. Whether you like that idea or not, it demonstrates a level of thought that just a lot of other board game companies don't put into their games.
I love the risk-reward portion of it. I like the idea that you're trying to score a lot of points at the end of the game by building massive attractions, but especially in a group that has a lot of conflict or a lot of competition between them, that they're going to be targets for people to shut down. And when those massive attractions get shut down, you're losing a lot of money to be able to fuel your idea of buying more attractions. So do you want to spread out? Do you want to build a lot of different things, or do you want to build one thing? What kind of upgrades do you want to have on them? There's just a lot of options that you can do in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. One other thing that I like is the sequence of play as it relates to the events. So the event cards that come out that give you that sort of take that feel. Like we said, that happens at the beginning of the round. So you kind of know before you're going to be building and changing your park what's closed and what's not.
Yeah.
So take that's not fun is when I've spent a round doing this and this and this and this, and then at the end of the round, Jeremy shuts it all down so I don't score any of the points. At least in this sequence, things are shut down, and then I can sort of adjust to that and build here instead of there to maybe salvage some points.
And it's not all just take that where you're targeting one player. The game actually targets players as well, which is fantastic, and it just adds to the theme where these cards can affect everybody. I mean, here's a blood drive, right? And all staff members have to, it's going to make a staff member leave the park.
Yeah, so the staff's unavailable that round. Yeah, so to that point, the negative aspects of the game that happen to all players help make the take that stuff feel a little more palatable.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic game. It's easily one of the best games that showed up by surprise at Gen Con because it wasn't on any of our lists.
Very pleasant surprise.
Yeah, so I look forward to seeing how well this does. I know that it is going up on Kickstarter very soon. Take our review for what it is. We loved the game. We thought it was fantastic. Go check it out, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching Man vs. Meeple. Subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and just let us know how we can change the show to benefit you guys. Thanks for watching.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.